I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. Hello, Foxy listeners, and welcome to the show today. I'm so excited for this guest. I didn't even do preamble with her before like I usually do because I just wanted to jump right into it. But my guest today is Olivia. Olivia, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Tanya. I'm really excited.
So I've been kind of deep diving and like snooping around about you and like learning more about your story and everything. But can you give a little bit of background to those that have not had the experience of meeting you yet? What is your story?
Yeah, I mean, where to begin? Kind of abbreviated version, so you get a little bit of context who I am. I am from the UK. I'm 23 years old. I now live in Chicago, where I run my business. And I started this business like 2 years ago now. I do fractional COO work. I help companies, become more efficient, make more profit, kind of the boring stuff, but is actually very important. But how I got to doing that, it's not like I woke up one day and was like, oh, I want to be a COO. It definitely was not like that. So basically, the beginning of my story, I guess, is really from when I was like 16, 17 kind of age. So I'm living in the UK in Sheffield, which is a reasonably small city by America standards. It's in the north of England near Manchester. Everyone seems to know Manchester because of the soccer. Yeah. So that's like my reference point because no one really knows Sheffield. But anyways, grew up there. Classic British stuff. But anyways, I was in a phase in my life where my dad had just passed away, and that was just a difficult time, and it made me like reevaluate my life and like where I was going. And I realized I wasn't like a very nice person to my family. Like I was always being quite nasty to them, causing arguments, like, teenager stuff, but it's like, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to act that way, right? Like throwing like sneaky parties, like police coming around to the house, like that kind of thing. You don't have to do that, So...
No, I did it too, though.
And with my dad as well, he was an alcoholic, and that was part of the demise, really. But he kind of pushed everyone away from him and like didn't want help. And whilst I didn't have a drinking problem, I could see that I was kind of doing a similar thing. Like I was pushing everyone away from me that cared about me. I didn't like to be vulnerable, didn't want to have those like close conversations with my family. I just wanted to be like alone all the time or like with friends. And that was kind of it. So I kind of took like a harsh look in the mirror and thought, is this really where I want my life to go? And I kind of realized that the value in life is in the connections and the relationships that you have. It's not in external success, which up until that point had really been what had driven me. I like validated myself through getting good grades in school. I did really well in school. It came easily to me. And like that was, being this intellectual was kind of like how I derived a lot of self-worth, which is not very good thing to do. So so anyways, this happened, and then I started university that September, like that year that my dad passed away. And then I paid for myself to go to therapy with my student loan, and I didn't tell my family or anything because it was kind of like a sweep everything under the rug kind of situation with my
Like
family.
your family was like that?
Right, like
Right.
I felt like they didn't really talk about hard things, or they just wanted to say, "Oh, I'm fine, everything's fine," and that kind of drove me insane. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just go do this myself, and then like once I feel better, I will tell them. So that's what I did. And about a year later, like I told my mum, and like they could see like a marked change in my behavior anyway. Like I was a much better person to be around. So I told them like what I had been doing. And then at that point, I had kind of like another evaluation thing. I was like, okay, now I've done some personal development, and I started getting a lot into that, like outside of therapy as well. And I started thinking, like, where do I want my life to go? I'm doing a science degree in London. I went to London for university. And I was like, okay, so I can either become a scientist, or I could go into investment banking with this degree, and I'll make maybe the money I want in like 10 years from now. That didn't sound like a very good option to me. And there had always kind of been entrepreneurial backgrounds in my family. Like my stepdad is an entrepreneur. And so I kind of always had the idea in my head that one day I would start a business. So I was like, why not just start it now? Like I literally have nothing better to do. So in my second year of university, I started my first business. I didn't drop out. I stayed in university. Um, but the first business I did was a Facebook ads agency, and it was really hard to get clients. I was so scared of like calling people up, and like I bought this course that was like how to run your Facebook ads agency, blah blah blah, and they taught cold calling and stuff. So here I was finding leads off the internet and calling them, and like psyching myself up for like 10 minutes beforehand just to talk to someone, and they wouldn't even answer the phone.
And was it like, it was one of those things where they kind of like, here's the script kind of thing that you can use? Like, did you have one of those that you were like, okay, well, let's hope this works?
Yeah, it kind of was like that, but obviously you kind of have to tailor it to the people that you're talking to and that kind of situation. And I did get some people onto second calls, which was cool. But during that process, I, was like, I don't know what I'm doing with sales. This is like really hard. And I had a friend who was in kind of like the online business world at the time, and he was amazing at sales. He lived in the UK, but he was amazing at sales. We met online, and so I asked him, I was like, who is your mentor? And it turned out it was this guy who lived in San Diego, and he was just started a sales training and recruiting business. He'd been a high ticket sales rep for over a decade and had built big sales teams for some like pretty big names. And so he was like, yeah, he taught me. He's like just launching a course that's going to be run live the first time. Like, you should join. So I did. And I joined that, did the course, and then I loved it so much I paid to do some one-on-one coaching with him, because his sales style was not just, sales. There was a big like personal development anchor in it. And like that was kind of his whole thing. Like, if you build yourself up as like a great person, and you're able to connect with people on the phone, and anyway, that's like really the best way to do sales. It's like a win-win situation. It's not like a you versus me kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really liked that. And so I, paid to do one-on-one coaching with him. And then I got really good at sales. And then he asked me if I wanted to like work with him in his business. Like, did I want to do sales for him and help him with some other like admin kind of stuff? And so at the time I was like, well, I'm starting to build my own business, but I feel like this guy has way more like knowledge, experience. I can learn a lot from working with him. And he, those classic sales guys that just have a bunch of connections, and they're able to connect with people in all sorts of places really easily. And I was like, well, this would be amazing. So I decided to do that. And I started working with him. And then it quickly became apparent that like he was not very good at anything that happened after the sale.
Right.
Right.
Which is the
like,
nitty gritty, right? Like there's a lot of people who are out there who are like, I don't like the sales. Like I always find it's like one or the other. Either you're really good at one or you're like, yeah, once I can get them in, I can't get them in the door, but once I do, it's carte blanche. Like I'm serving them like they're royalty.
right, exactly. And so he was the sales one. I mean, to be expected, really. He's a sales guy. That's what he had been used to for over a decade. He just does the sale and then he's like done, right?
Yeah.
But now he has a different now he has his own business. So he, brought them on whenever there was like training that he had to do, with a client, he would do it, but like, and he would do it well, but it became hard for him to like stick to a schedule with things and like just do all that kind of stuff. And he was really just meant to be doing sales and like making joint venture partnerships and stuff. That was what he was meant to be doing. And so I could see things were like not going to go well as he started to get more and more clients. So to me, it was like really obvious what had to happen. Like the systems that need to get built, the people that needed to be hired, like the structures that need to be put in place. I've always been able to kind of see that. I'm a pretty logical person. I studied science, like I just kind of have that in me. So I just stepped in and like just did those things for him in his business. And then once I finished university, I went out to San Diego to work with him for 3 months. I was kind of seeing like, okay, can this be something? Like, can I work with you long term? Like, would I actually want to be someone that's like running your company and stuff? And we doubled his business in the year that I was working with him. But when I went out to California, I mean, California is amazing. It was great. But I didn't feel like it was going to be a long-term relationship. I felt like he kind of began to lose his integrity. Like he would kind of say one thing that needed to happen, but then he wasn't holding up his end of the bargain. And I really felt at one point that I was really running the whole business. Like I was doing all of the work and I wasn't getting compensated accordingly. And when I could see the evidence, 1 month he got COVID and he lost his voice, to be fair to him. So I took over the whole business, but we doubled our monthly revenue that month. And I was like, okay, so clearly I know what I'm doing.
I have something. Yeah.
And I can run this. So I was like, okay. And then just him not being a good partner to work with kind of like put me off because he had great testimonials, great credibility, a great product. But I felt like, when someone loses their integrity and you lose trust in them, it's like, how far can you really build something? So I felt like it just wasn't going to be a fit long term. It took me some time to pull the trigger on that fully though, because I was still kind of like, even though I saw that proof of myself, he, he kind of made me feel like I couldn't do it by myself.
Right.
Right. So I was, I'm still young and I was very young then. And he kind of made me feel like I didn't have that experience and I couldn't do things. And I don't know if that was just like his way of trying to keep me or what that really was. But I went, worked with him in California, had to go back to the UK because I didn't have my like long-term visa at that time. So I went back to the UK for a few months. Then I went to Miami because he moved to Miami, worked with him a bit more, met a bunch of other entrepreneurs and stuff. And I realized like the stuff he's dealing with and the stuff I'm helping him with is not an isolated problem. Like this is happening with the majority of business owners, especially the ones that identify more as, visionaries, which are the ones that tend to prefer the sales side of things, like you were saying. But even all of them, because there's only so much bandwidth one person has, and the CEO and founder really needs to focus in one particular segment of the business, right? So after that Miami trip, I was like, okay, I don't want to work with him anymore. Like, this is not for me. So I'm going to start my own thing. So I went back to the UK. I started my own business and I submitted my application for my visa to move to the States. And then that got approved by the end of the summer. So I moved out to Chicago. I moved to Chicago because while I was working for the guy, I hired someone to work for us. and they lived in Chicago. So I ended up becoming really good friends with them. I went out to Chicago to visit them during that time. And I was like, you know what? Chicago has everything I want in a city. Like, it has all the major sports teams, even though they're not very good here.
We won't tell anybody. Well, you can say that. You're not from there.
And, I love like skyscrapers, nice city skyline, great food, great people. And there's Lake Michigan, which is basically an ocean. So it just had everything I wanted. So I moved here just over a year ago now. And then I've been building my business ever since, and got 3 team members and helping a lot of businesses do fun things. So yeah, it's cool. So yeah, that's my story.
No, and I think this is important because I think, the operations side of it, I mean, we hear a lot of people talking about, sales and marketing, getting out there, networking, getting to know people, you making a name for yourself, all that other stuff. But I think that sometimes what happens, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we get into this movement of trying to get all of these, people into our funnel, people into our lists and everything. And then we kind of lose them because the operation side of it is sort of lacking on the other end. So, being that that's the case, what have you found is there one thing that you're like, I know as soon as I meet with somebody, if I ask them this question, like, this is what they're all failing in the operation side of it? Is there something that's like not really a mystery because it's so simple?
Well, kind of what you said there, right? Like, people will take on they'll try and get a lot of leads and then end up kind of losing them. And most people just don't really have a scalable fulfillment. So like, when they get that sale, they don't know what is happening afterward. Like, they know, but they don't, it's not independent of their time. It's not systemized. There aren't SOPs. So when they get to the point where like they're at capacity, if they're a one woman show right now, they don't have that process in place to hire someone else and for them to do it properly. And they don't know at what point they need to hire someone else. They don't know what to pay them. And then if they do have someone else, they don't know what this person's capacity of clients should be. And that's a big mistake people make. They're just kind of like making it up. Like, they haven't worked out how many hours it should take to fulfill, one service for a client. So they can never forecast their hiring. And so they just end up hiring in this frenzy, and then they end up not being profitable either, because they're not thinking about, how much should they be paying this person if they're paying them an hourly rate, but they're taking longer than they should be to fulfill the service because they didn't create a process for the service. Then they just end up in this vicious cycle. And that's what happens. And people they end up having to turn off sales and marketing so they can deal with this chaos they've created in fulfillment. And then once they fix that, they realize now they've got a cash flow problem because their leads have dried up, right? And then they end up in a vicious cycle. So, this was kind of drilled into me by learning sales first, but it's like, you always have to keep your pipeline full. You always have to have leads coming in. And even if you feel like you're not in a position to take them on right now, how can you give them something that is scalable? How can you get them on a wait list, right? You always have to be thinking about that. And every day when you wake up as a business owner, you need to be thinking, how can I create opportunities for my business? Because you can't survive a cash flow problem. You can, even if it's a bit chaotic, you can sit down and figure out systems and processes to fix your fulfillment. But you can't do that if you're having a cash flow problem, right? So I would say most people is like, why they never grow is because their fulfillment is not scalable, and they don't know their margins, and they don't know how to deploy cash in a strategic way to keep them growing systematically.
So for you, like, when you decided to like go off on your own, of course you had all of this background knowledge of making sure that you had all of that end stuff. Did you still find yourself getting sort of caught in that spiral that you had spoke of also?
Sometimes, yeah, it's definitely easy if you're not aware of it. And so it's where like why I always think that business is just a form of personal development. I think that you can't grow the most you could grow in business if you're not also working on your personal development, because you need to be looking at your blind spots, right? And so if you don't know that this is a blind spot, you don't know what you don't know, then you won't be aware of it and you won't be looking for it. So I'm able to like mitigate this risk more than someone that doesn't know about it because I'm aware of it already, right? But I would say that for me, it's just like whenever you have a service or an offering, you should like get up a spreadsheet or something. You should think, okay, what are all of the steps that's taken in this service to get someone from, you know, paid to like happy, complete with the service? And if it's a monthly recurring thing, you know, what are all the tasks that happen every month? Then you want to write how much time each of those tasks should take. And then if you're going to hire someone, what's the hourly rate you should be paying them? And so then you can work out like how much, what's the cost, right? What's the cost to fulfill this service every month? And if you don't know what you should be paying someone, you should just look it up on like Indeed or something like that, and you'll get a rough hourly rate. Then you'll know how much you're charging for the service, and then you'll know your gross margins. You also need to kind of bake in, you know, sales commission, your cost of acquisition and things like that. And then you will know. And then, so now you've already kind of set this intention that someone else is going to be doing this work, not you. So whenever if you're the first person delivering the service to start with, whenever you're doing it, you need to be thinking, okay, how can I build this in a way to pass it on to someone else? Right. And so that's where you need to use something like Notion to store SOPs. And so if you have, I don't know, let's think of I guess an example is just like doing a client call, right? So like, do you have a clear agenda for this call? Do you have recordings of the calls that you can link into this document? So if you hire someone, immediately they have an agenda to follow and they have examples of it being done successfully, and then they can join some live calls with you, ask some questions, get additional training, and they should be off to the races. It should be pretty straightforward, right? And so I think I find the struggle is like when most people like actually get stuck in a cycle is because they're not thinking about when are they going to hire this next person, and then they're really bad at delegating. So they try.
I think that's most entrepreneurs, because like you said, I think that sometimes what happens is they know what they're doing, right? They have all of the knowledge, but then when it comes to telling somebody, it's almost like it becomes second nature, and then it's hard to describe because you're just like, I don't know, you just do it. Right. So I love your tip of like, start right at the beginning and write it down as if somebody else has to follow these instructions, you know, and make this, you know, cake kind of thing that you're creating, and not just go, here's what it looks like. Good luck. Figure it out.
Right. And it's so important that you have like some way to delegate tasks. So using a software like ClickUp, where you can like, you know, have those tasks, assign them, write in all the detail. And I just hired a new team member this week. So I'm like, you know, going through this myself right now. And I think where a lot of people get stuck is, you know, they're doing something that they've been doing for ages. Like an example is I implement this like end of day report system with most of my clients. And so we can get this report from their team members every day, see what they were working on really easily, help them, give them support where they need really easily. And so that's just a form we set up, and then we integrate it with Slack or whatever they're using for their messaging. I've set this up, you know, at least over 50 times. It's so easy to me. I know what I'm doing, but I don't want to keep doing that. So right now I'm in a situation where I could think, oh, it's going to take me like 20 minutes to do it. I should just do it. Or it might take me like 20 minutes to fully describe it and give all the details in a ClickUp task to my team member. And then they're going to ask me questions about it. And then I have to send them the logins, and
this 20-minute task is going to end in the long run, take me, you know, an hour or two to get rid of.
So you think, oh, I should just do it. But I didn't do it because I'm thinking this one-time investment now this team member is going to know what to do every single time. And I've also got now a process written out in that task that I can just use this task in future, and I don't have to write it out again. right? So I think entrepreneurs need to stop thinking of like the initial time suck of, you know, delegating the tasks and putting the time to put in the detail. And when you are writing it out, like really try and visualize yourself doing the task. What are all the steps? What are those things you run into? You know, things that when you're doing it are second nature to you, but someone is going to come across when they're doing it. And you're going to have to delegate quite a few tasks so you can even get in the mindset of thinking, what information does this person need that most people wouldn't include, right? So you make sure you're including all of that information that often gets missed. But I think it's like, you know, when you invest in a program, right, you give a big upfront investment because you know it's going to get you an ROI in future. It's going to get you a monetary ROI in future. And you need to have that same mindset to delegating. There's going to be an upfront time investment because in the future, it's going to give you so much more free time. So much more free time. It's the same thing. And if you just kept getting stuck in this mindset of, oh, I don't want to delegate it, it's just faster if I do it, it's faster if I do it, you're going to be like the business owner that never invests in programs and never invests in their business. They don't really get very far, do they? No, they don't. No. So you just need to reframe it because, you know, even myself having hired this person this week, like, yeah, maybe I'm spending a bit more time than usual, like writing SOPs, creating tasks, delegating things. But I already feel like things are getting taken off my plate, things are getting done faster. And when you do it properly, you feel like you're like magnified. Now I feel like there's like people doing things like on behalf of me, on behalf of the business. Like I feel like everything's been 10x and we can do more and we can take on more clients, right? So I think it's like most people are scared to do it. And as well, like if it's your first hire and you're like hiring for fulfillment, people get so afraid of it. And I felt this myself. I know friends that have felt this. But it's like when you're about to make that first hire and you feel like your profit is going to go down because like right now, let's say you're making like 20K a month and you're fulfilling everything, you're keeping all of that. You're keeping all of it. But then you bring someone on, you might end up like paying them 4 or 5K a month to work full time and fulfill everything, right? So now you're making a lot less money. Well, not a lot, 25% less, let's say, which, you know, is sizable after now you're being taxed on a lower amount and you get less money, basically. So a lot of people are so afraid to make that first hire because all they can think about is that initial like drop in their take-home income. But what they fail to think about is that if someone is working full-time in your business and working on client delivery, how many more clients could you take on right now? How much more time could you spend on revenue generating activities to bring in more clients? You probably just increase the capacity of your business to be like 50K a month. That's probably like your earning potential now. And so if you can like move past that, you're going to make a lot more money. But most people like get too afraid to move past that. And then they think, oh, I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to get like stuck doing all of these things. And so it's like you need to learn the skill of delegation. If you're not good at writing systems and processes, like you need someone to do that for you, coach you through it, work with you on that, implement those processes for you. And then you need to get comfortable with letting go of control. Because if you don't let go of control, you'll be stuck. And, you know, my mentor was talking with me about this a few months ago because I like to be in control. I really do. I always have my whole life. And I was kind of talking to them and I was like, oh, I'm hiring some new people, but it's just like, I'm afraid of like my, you know, I don't want my reputation to get damaged.
Right.
If I hire people and they're doing the work that's like really high level and stuff, like I don't want my reputation to get damaged, right? And she's like, well, what proof do you have that that would even happen? You know, you have your processes. If you're training them and you're hiring them and they're going through your processes, how likely do you think that is going to happen? I'm like, well, it's not very likely. So really it's an unfounded fear. But then the main thing is that really she said that she gave me like an anecdote from her life, basically. And she said that she has a really good friend, basically. And they met 1 year, and they were just kind of talking about where they were at in business. And they're at the same level. And then a year later, they were talking, and he was in the exact same level, but she had like, quadrupled. And she said it was because he could not let go of control. He wouldn't hire people. He did hire some people, but he wouldn't give them the tasks or the autonomy. He wouldn't give them the space to make mistakes and let them know that it was going to be okay, right? They were going to learn from these mistakes. And so he just stayed in the exact same position. And to me, like, there's nothing more painful than like staying in the same position. Like, I want to keep growing, because like, not even just to make more money, but if I'm not growing in my business, even monetarily, I'm not encountering new challenges. Like, I'm not challenging myself. I'm not like growing as a person. So I was like, well, I definitely don't want to stay in the same place. So even though it's hard, you have to decide, like, do you want to make that conscious choice to progress and move forward, or are you just going to stay in the same place?
Well, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs suffer from this, right? Because they think like, okay, like I started this, I created everything that was going, and it's almost like that fear of, and I remember kind of being this, like somebody would come and say, hey, have you thought of trying this, or like this program or this system, I think might be a little bit easier. And, sometimes there was like reasons, right? We've tried it. We know it doesn't work, like, right. See the bigger picture. But I learned that more often than not of just allowing them to run with it. Like, I'm like, I don't know, try it, see if it works. Like, what the heck? Let's, now it's such an easy thing where I'm like, yeah, bring whatever knowledge you have from whatever it is, and let's try it and see, because it's so much easier, I think, for me now to be like, you have the brilliant ideas. I don't care. Make it as easy as you want. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Because it's also more fun that way. But I found that it made up my team stronger as well, because it gave them the opportunity to sort of spread their wings too and be like, hey, I've got some really great ideas. And their investment then became bigger in the team and, in our hierarchy. And then it was a lot easier because, I don't know, I just found when they're invested, it's like, I never think, or I never worry now, like you were saying about, is their voice going to sound the same? Are they going to treat clients the same way I would? Is their integrity going to be as high as I want my integrity to be for this business? Once I started to let go, I realized it's there. I had to trust that they wanted to be there, and that they did have my best interest, because my best interest is their best interest at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think one of the biggest things to remember is that your team wants to contribute. Like, they want to be a contribution. They want to know that they're doing work that is useful to you. Like, if anyone as an entrepreneur thinks back to ever being employed, or if you weren't employed, like, how would you want to be employed? You want to know that you're like doing something useful. There's nothing worse than, like, if you ever had a waitressing job growing up, I did. It's like just feeling like, oh, anyone could do this. Like, I'm not being useful right now. I'm not doing anything creative, like using my human skills or whatever. Like, this is just mind numbing. Right. And so your team doesn't want to feel like that. They don't want to feel like a robot. They want to feel like that they've got the autonomy to do things. And so even though you do give them systems and processes, like, they can run with projects, they can come to you with ideas, they know that your business has a safe space to do that, right? That's really what they want at the end of the day. And so once you know that they have a certain skill level, it's like you can just tell them, hey, this is the outcome we're looking for. This is like the time you have to do it. Go ahead and do it. Don't really care how you do it. Just do it. And like, if you find a better way of doing XYZ, or if you think some things are missing that we can make it better, let us know. Like, tell us like what can be improved here. And then they're gonna, be finding better ways to do things that doesn't take up your time. It's gonna be improving your company, and they're gonna feel like they're important, they're valued, valued. They feel like their voice is important because you actually want to know what they think. And everybody's happy. That's when you get the highest retention from your team members, you know, when they feel like they're actually valued and contributing something important.
So for those business owners, I was thinking about those that are, at the cusp where they're like, okay, I either don't want to do this all by myself or I need help. Like I'm spending all of my days and nights just working, trying to get all of this done. Is there one area that, for the operations or for them, like handing stuff off and delegating, is there one area that you could recommend that is like the easiest for those control freak entrepreneurs that are like, I don't know if this is going to work? Like, is there a toe dipping one that you could suggest for them?
Yeah, I mean, definitely like an administrative assistant / executive assistant type of role is usually going to be one of the most low risk hires you can do, especially admin assistant if you go down that route, because it's lower dollar per hour than other roles. It's usually going to be more back end stuff, like not client facing if you don't want it to be. It can be when you've built up that kind of trust. So it's really you getting comfortable passing off tasks to someone that are just those admin tasks that's taking up a lot of your time. Or if you keep having ideas of things that you want to do in kind of an administrative organizational realm that you just don't have the time to do, now you have someone you can give those things to. So I'd say it's good because it's like low risk, it's not super expensive, it's not like client facing, and it's a really good way to learn how you work with someone, because your assistant is like actually quite an intimate position where they'll be like with you through a lot. You need to learn how to communicate with them. It's a good way to learn how to start delegating tasks. So that's what I recommend for a lot of people. Not everyone likes an assistant or wants that, but I think that's also part of with like learning to let go. Like if you don't want one, why is that? Like, are you just a bit of a control freak? Because I think that they're great personally. So.
I don't think I could. Yeah, I don't think I could do without mine. I got to tell you, and I don't think I ever want to go back, because now I look and I'm like, she does some stuff and I have no idea how she does it. I really don't know. And it's not out of not being interesting. It's just like you said, over the years, she's been with me for such a long time that it's like second nature. She just like knows what I need and goes ahead and does it. And then all of a sudden there it appears, like the file appears on my computer and I'm like, oh, this is great. We should do this. And she's like, I know, that's why I created it. And I'm like, oh my God, you're brilliant. Thank you. This is amazing. Right. And it just makes it a lot smoother, but it was hard at the beginning because like you said, it was, reframing the way I thought about the initial time, because there was that learning experience of how we both work, how we both communicate, what I need. But I love what you're saying of, like go into it slowly and just like sort of ease yourself into it. And then all of a sudden you find yourself being like, just take it and go. like just create it.
Yeah, because I think as well, it's like once you start to have success with it, you'll find that it's kind of addictive, like delegating tasks and it getting done successfully. It's like, making sales, that can be quite addictive. It's like when you do something that gets you your time back or gets you money, is like, wow, I want to keep doing this, right? So then you get that positive reinforcement and then you're going to keep doing it more. And like your team likes it when you give them things to do. They don't want to just be like sitting idle. Like they want to have things to do. So, and there's probably stuff on your to-do list that you don't need to be doing, that you also hate doing, that someone else would love to be doing. So just let them do it.
And I think that's the hard thing. Like we do a thing where we write down, like we have a huge whiteboard and it's just a list. And if somebody has a task that's been like assigned to them, it's like, I don't really want this, is what it says at the top of the whiteboard. And they will just like write it down. I don't really want this. And there's all like, we've never had anything that's been on the list that's been there for there's always somebody else on the team who is like, I'll take it. I'll do it. I love doing that. I love creating signs or whatever, or creating an ad or whatever the case may be. And then it just kind of goes to the right person, but it gave everybody permission to kind of go, like, my head's not into it, or this isn't my cup of tea, or I'm overwhelmed, or whatever. It's kind of but it doesn't get lost, right? Like, you're not like, Cecilia, like, you've had this task on your list for like forever. What is going on with this? Why aren't you doing this?
I really like that idea because, like you just said, if someone has a task on their list that they don't want to do, it's always going to get put to the bottom of their to-dos, like put off for ages. And then one day it will come out of the cracks that they didn't do it and it really did need to get done. And now you're in a sticky situation versus like you've created an environment where it's okay to say like, hey, this isn't a fit for my, like, what I like to be doing and my skill set, but I'm sure there is someone else on the team is, so let's see who wants to do it. Like, you've created that safe space, which is awesome and just makes you way more productive, because I think that's great. And you'll notice yourself, like if you are a solopreneur, like looking to delegate right now, like what are those things that you've been telling yourself for weeks that you're going to do and you haven't done it? That's probably what you should delegate next and like hire somebody for. Because like even myself today, like I've been saying that these like email signatures were going to get sorted, and I'm like, wait, I haven't done anything on this. Let me just give it to my assistant. Like, why have I not given this to her already? And I gave it to her today, and she's already come back to me with like 3 different examples of designs. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Like,
this is great. You did this so fast. And I think it's just like giving ourselves, permission. And for me, it allows me to work better with the team, because if I see somebody giving away like a certain task, then I can go like, is this something that we shouldn't be giving to you? And sometimes it is like, sometimes they're like, I just don't like this. We even had one who was like, had no background in like design or anything. And I kept seeing her like anytime there was like a poster or a flyer or a brochure, like she was taking them all. And I was like, you seem to take these. And she was like, I don't know, I just really like doing it. And I'm like, why aren't you doing this? Like, we ended up sending her like on a course to learn like how to use Canva more. And like, she's like so happy. She just loves it. And I was like, if we wouldn't have given her the opportunity to sort of take this task off of somebody else, I don't know if she ever would have tried it, because she was just like, I don't have any education. I don't have any formal training in it. It's kind of not my thing. And she creates the best stuff in the fastest amount of time. Like, I was like, I'm really glad we allowed people to do this, to kind of discover new things and try new things, and like you said, I love what you said too about making mistakes, is allowing your team to make mistakes. Because I think that that's such a key thing, is not going in and expecting perfection.
Yeah, because if you do, you will be disappointed. Like, you're not perfect, they're not perfect. Set your expectations accordingly, right? You are going to have to put in time at the beginning, and there is going to be some mistakes, and there probably will still be some mistakes down the line, and you just got to accept that, so long as it's not, a routine thing that you've given people training on and they know how to do. But every now and again, there will be little miscommunications. There will be things that, in a perfect world wouldn't happen. But at the end of the day, if they do the majority of things right and they make your life significantly easier, then that's totally fine. But what most people do is like, the team will make one mistake, or like there'll be one miscommunication, and then they'll feel like, oh, I can't trust this person. I can't give them any more tasks. And it's like, well, you probably fell off a bike the first time you learned how to ride it, So like, this is them falling off a bike. Let them get back on and like have another go.
Try not like, that's it. No more bikes for you. Never. You walk everywhere you go. So you have a couple of freebies or promotional things that you have given for our audience to look at. Can you talk to us a little bit about them, and what they are and what they're used for?
Yeah, for sure. So the first one is a self-audit. So it's a video. You should watch the video, and it will just help you get a little bit more context on the kind of like 3 key pillars in your business that you need to have, like a scalable and profitable business that can work independently of you. And it will help you see where you should look inside of your business, like what needs to get changed and how can you, get to this. So that's the first thing. And that's really for anyone, no matter kind of what level that you're at. I think why I've been able to just do quite well from the beginning is because I've always been thinking about how can I build it in a systemized way. I haven't just been like scrambling to get clients and then having operations as an afterthought. I've always been thinking, how can I optimize to this model? And it's made life a lot easier. So no matter what stage you're at, that's for you. And then the other thing is setting up an Upwork profile. So if you are a service provider, this one will really be for you. Now, one of our main forms of client generation is from Upwork, which sounds like an unlikely source, but if you're a service provider and like in operations, like building systems, fractional COO stuff, there's great leads on there all the time, like high value leads, like $6,000 a month retainer leads on there. So if you are a service provider, social media manager, website designer, recruiter, like copywriter, anything like that, that's going to be for you. And this is going to teach you how to write your Upwork profile in a way that's kind of like a sales page. So when people read it, they actually reach out to you, they send you a message, they invite you to the jobs instead of you having to like manually apply to jobs. Of course, you should do that too, but this is essentially like helping you get more inbound leads and positioning yourself as an authority. We get inbound requests all the time just because of the way that we've written the profile. So highly recommend that if you're a service provider.
Well, and I think that's, exciting for a lot of people to hear because, we hear quite often when people think of Upwork, they think of like, the cheapest that you can get something done kind of thing, right? Is sort of what goes through their head. They don't actually think of it as a resource for higher ticket sales.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I thought at first before I first got into it. And I had a social media manager friend who she was like, oh, I just got a $4,000 a month client from here. And I was like, huh, really? And I could see, I did some research for my niche and I was like, oh, there are actually a lot of leads on here. And yeah, some of them want it done dirt cheap, but some of them are actually looking for the top tier because when you're posting a job on Upwork, you can either say, beginner, intermediate, or expert. And so I always go for the expert level jobs with the higher pay grade. But when I'm looking at them as well, I'm not thinking, oh, can I do their job for their pay? I'm thinking, is the problem they're talking about a fit for my offers? And then when I got on the sales call with them, they'll get funneled into one of my offers that's relevant to them, right? So I'm thinking it as a sales process, whereas most people are thinking about it as an interview process. So you just kind of have to use it in a way that's going to be most effective for your business and make sure you're really filtering those leads because they are there. Those are there.
So what is going forward for you? What do you kind of have in the works? Give me some shameless plugs.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're just kind of, just hired a new team member. So we're really just focusing on refining our services. So our main ones is our fractional COO service. We have a zero touch onboarding service where we fully automate the entire A to Z of your onboarding process, no matter how complex it is. From the moment payment is taken, everything is automated from sending out contracts, questionnaires, calls, booking, creating tasks and ClickUp, all of that. And then our other service that we mainly do is building project management systems. So we're really refining those three right now, working with some great clients. And then going into the next year, that's really what we're just going to be mainly focused on, building those relationships, building those three services, hiring more people. And we're going to be getting more into joint venture partnerships, strategic partnerships, and some more email marketing. So sounds kind of basic. I feel like everyone's kind of talking about cool things and whatever, but I've realized, I think as time has gone on, I have scraped away more of the fluff from my business. So if you asked me at the beginning of this year what I was doing a bunch of things that wasn't actually like helping me towards the main goal. Whereas at the end of the day, it's got to be simple, and don't try and do 100 lead channels at once. You know, once you've got one working, systemize it, delegate it, move on to the next, right? Like my assistant manages the entire Upwork stuff. She books all my calls and I just show up to a sales call, right? So now we can move on to the next lead channel. So yeah, I would say is like most of the time what you got to do is like the boring refinement stuff. And so that's what I'm doing, but it doesn't feel boring. Like it feels like nice because I feel like I actually get to delegate things properly, systemize things properly, and I don't have to work a crazy amount. Like I get to work just as much as I want to and get the results I want to. So,
which in the end of the day is the dream of most entrepreneurs, or at least should be. I don't think anybody goes into business going, I want to work all the time.
right. But I think some people kind of like make that promise to themselves. They're like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get this specific outcome. And so they kind of just work all the time and lose themselves in the process. But then they end up building a business that requires that input from them all the time to keep sustaining. Whereas I'm thinking about how can I build this entity that works without me, and like I only do the bits I want to do, and even if I didn't want to do them, what would it look like, right?
Yeah.
So business can easily becomes the monster like of what you feed it, right? So if you're always feeding it your time and energy, you're going to feel like it always needs that, and you're going to be addicted to giving it that. But if you train it to not need your time and energy and like phase that out, then it will be able to work without you.
Yeah, I just want to come and talk. That's what I said to them. 2024, I just want to come and talk. That's it. That's my goal. You guys have fun doing all of the other stuff. That's what my plan is. But I love what you said about, you know, and I hope people take that to heart about like looking at your business and seeing like what fluff it is that you can pull away, because that was, you know, that was a big thing on our end too. It was like, I'm done offering all of this stuff. Like 3, figure it out. Like that's our goal at the end of the year. 3, that's it. No more. Like I want to be able to stand in an elevator and tell somebody everything that we offer. And we're just going to get rid of stuff. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to do. Right. But it was like, they catch me when I'm busy doing something else or on the phone. And then they show me, do you like doing this? And I'm like, what? No. And then like it gets thrown away, and it's like, they've learned very well how to get quick answers out of me. So I don't think of it. But I think that sometimes that's, you know, that's hard because as entrepreneurs, we're like, oh, but that was the first service I ever offered. I can't give that up. Like I've done that for 25 years, you know, and now I'm like, get rid of it, you know, put it in the closet. We don't need that anymore.
Right. It's so important to not get too attached to the stuff in your business. Like you might feel like your business is you or is an extension of you, but that stops you seeing things for what they really are and making the decisions that are best for the long term.
Yeah. And I don't want to work forever. I don't know about anybody else. The idea is that somebody else can take it or have it, or I can sell it or or I can keep doing it if I want to, right? Providing I get to that point where I'm like, yeah, I just show up. I don't know. Something pops up on my calendar and I show up.
Exactly.
So where are the best places for people who want to go and do some sleuthing like I did, find out more about you, connect with you? Where are the best places for them to go and find you?
Definitely the website. So thesystemsboss.io, and then Instagram. It's probably going to be the main 2 places, I would say.
Perfect. Well, we'll make sure that we have all of the links in the show notes to where you can find Olivia, learn more about the System Boss and stuff that she has to offer. But thank you so much. I think there was a lot of moments that I know people are going to be like, damn it, I'm going to have to sit and think about this. So I appreciate your time and all of your expertise, Olivia.
You're so welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Perfect. That was fantastic. Thank you. I think there's a lot of takeaways in that. So I very much appreciate your time.
I'm glad. Fun.
Do we have my calendar? We do not. Okay. I usually have my calendar here that I would be able to tell you when the episode is going to go out, but I don't have it. So usually we're trying to put it out within 3 weeks. We release every Tuesday. So we will send you an email by the end of this week that'll let you know the date that it's going to air. And then shortly before it airs, we'll send you all of the notes and tag you in social media where applicable for when it goes out. And then we will follow it up with the video version of the episode as well, which we will put out on YouTube. So I apologize, I didn't have that. We're away at a conference, so we're still trying to get the office back sorted all together. But in the meantime, before your episodes goes out, is there anything else additional I can do to help you out?
I think that's it for now. If there's anything that I can help you out with, let me know as well. Always want to know how I can help things on your end and improve the show and stuff, get more viewers and eyeballs on it.
Yeah, I think, for us, like sharing the episode definitely, helps and putting it out there and sort of sharing the context for it. Especially the video version. We're really trying to push, this last quarter in the upcoming season. We've had a lot more people be like, we really like the video, like we like putting a face to the name. So we're trying to up our game on that. So sharing the YouTube version definitely will help to get more eyeballs and more followers that way would be what I would say for that answer. So
sounds good.
So we'll be in touch. We've got your direct email. We'll send you an email and let you know when that's going out. And I would love to stay connected and have you back on the show again in a few months to see where you are and what's going on and get a little bit of an update from you.
Yeah, me too. That would be awesome. Thanks so much, Tanya.
Okay. You have a great day and we'll be in touch.
You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Look, the truth is that in business, one of the hardest things you're ever going to have to do as an entrepreneur is letting go. And that can be letting go of a lot of different things. Just a simple task, letting go of some of the processes, some of the things that you thought you knew, all those hard things. But it's one of the most important things that I've learned in business. There are other people that love doing the things you don't like to do. And there are other people who do have better ideas. I know it's hard for us to admit it, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have Olivia on the show, is to just showcase that ability that we all have to kind of just think a little bit differently. Even when she was talking about Upwork and, instead of thinking of it as you applying, how can you look at that as a sales funnel that you can use for your business? I think there were so many different ideas. I would love to hear what your perspective was on this episode. What was it that you kind of went, oh man, I never really thought of that? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to head to our blog post at foxtalksbusiness.com/blog. You will see this episode. You're going to find all of the ways that you can connect with Olivia, as well as get those freebies so you can take a look at not only how she deals with Upwork, but get a little bit of idea of where is it that you should be focusing your concentration right now, and maybe a little bit of delegation in your business. So I hope that you'll head and check out those as well. We're going to have all of the links for you to make it super easy. And no matter what it is you're doing today, make sure you take time to do 2 things. 1, head anywhere you love to find books, because I am so excited to say, finally, How to Collaborate is officially out in bookstores everywhere. We are working on the audio version, but you can get it in ebook, you can get it in paperback, you can get it in hardcover, you can get it no matter where you are in the world. There is a place that is going to ship it to you. So go and check that out. Just head to foxtalksbusiness.com/book to find all of the areas. And the second one, which I think is the most important one, is our tagline. Make sure that no matter what it is that you're doing today, you take time to have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?